Script 38 ***. A wave of industry reporting that circulated through 2025 and continued into early 2026 fundamentally reshaped how the short drama sector is discussed, and that shift has started to directly affect how viewers interpret actors like Yu Long and Yang Mie, because the conversation is no longer limited to performances or pairings but has expanded into policy, platform economics, and the rapid commercialization of vertical storytelling formats that were initially treated as disposable entertainment but are now being recognized as a serious revenue engine. Several Chinese media analyses highlighted that the microdrama market experienced explosive growth during 2024 to 2025, with total revenue figures reaching levels that forced regulators to step in and standardize content guidelines, particularly targeting exaggerated plot devices, unethical monetization loops, and low-quality productions that relied purely on shock value to drive clicks. And while this tightening was initially perceived as a threat to the industry, it instead triggered a restructuring phase where production companies began investing more carefully in casting, pacing, and editing, attempting to maintain high engagement while avoiding regulatory penalties. This restructuring is visible when comparing earlier waves of vertical dramas with more recent releases featuring recurring actors, including Yu Long and Yang Mie, where the narrative pacing remains fast but the transitions between emotional beats appear more controlled, and the placement of high-intensity scenes is more strategically aligned with monetization checkpoints such as episode unlocks, suggesting that storytelling is no longer just about emotional impact but about guiding viewer behavior through a carefully engineered sequence of engagement triggers. At the same time, another development began influencing the ecosystem from a different direction, as major platforms started competing more aggressively for short-form content dominance, integrating vertical dramas into their core recommendation systems rather than treating them as secondary content, which resulted in increased visibility for actors who could consistently generate engagement across multiple releases, effectively turning repetition into an advantage rather than a liability. Within this environment, Yu Long and Yang Mie became part of a broader pattern that fans began documenting, where certain actors appear repeatedly not because of a single breakout success but because their content performs reliably within algorithmic frameworks that prioritize retention, replay, and comment activity, and this reliability has become a measurable asset in a market where platforms are optimizing for continuous user engagement rather than isolated viral moments. Parallel to these structural changes, discussions about fixed CP pairings intensified across fan communities, reflecting a growing awareness that repeated collaborations are not always driven by narrative necessity but by audience retention strategies, where familiar dynamics reduce the cognitive effort required for viewers to engage with new content, allowing them to immediately recognize character archetypes and emotional trajectories without needing extensive exposition. Yu Long and Yang Mie are frequently cited in these discussions as an example of a pairing that has crossed the threshold from occasional collaboration into recognizable brand identity within the vertical drama space, where their presence alone signals a certain type of narrative experience, often centered around rapid emotional escalation and reconciliation cycles that can be easily segmented into shareable clips. However, this recognition has also generated a parallel critique that has gained traction in recent months, particularly among viewers who track multiple pairings simultaneously, arguing that the increasing reliance on fixed CP dynamics may lead to creative stagnation if not balanced with variation in roles, narrative tone, or performance style. And this critique often references other emerging pairings that attempt to differentiate themselves through more stylized acting or unconventional story structures. What complicates the comparison is that these alternative approaches do not always translate into sustained engagement, as highly stylized performances may capture immediate attention but fail to generate the same level of replay or discussion, which remains a key driver of algorithmic amplification, reinforcing the idea that effectiveness within this system depends less on originality and more on the ability to sustain interaction over time. Another layer of discussion has emerged around distribution behavior, particularly the way clips featuring Yu Long and Yang Mie circulate across multiple platforms, often appearing in different formats that emphasize specific elements of a scene, such as close-ups of facial expressions, slowed-down reaction shots, or edited sequences that isolate emotional turning points. And this fragmentation allows the same content to reach different audience segments while maintaining a consistent core identity. This cross-platform circulation has been further amplified by the rise of content aggregation accounts that specialize in curating vertical drama highlights, effectively acting as secondary distributors that extend the lifespan of individual scenes beyond their original release window, and within this network, certain types of moments, especially those involving emotional hesitation or ambiguous reactions, tend to be selected more frequently because they invite interpretation and encourage viewer participation in the form of comments and debates. At the same time, broader entertainment trends continue to operate in parallel, with large-scale productions such as *Shine on Me* achieving massive viewership and international attention, including controversy related to regional distribution decisions, highlighting the contrast between traditional long-form storytelling and the fragmented consumption patterns of short-form content, where success is measured not by total viewing time but by the frequency and intensity of repeated engagement. This coexistence of two distinct systems, one focused on narrative immersion and the other on iterative engagement, has created a hybrid landscape where actors can build visibility through entirely different pathways, and Yu Long and Yang Mia's continued presence within the vertical drama space reflects a model that prioritizes consistency, adaptability, and alignment with platform mechanics over the pursuit of singular, high-profile breakthroughs. As the industry continues to evolve under regulatory pressure, platform competition, and shifting audience behavior, the position of actors within this ecosystem becomes increasingly tied to their ability to function within these interconnected systems, where performance, editing, distribution, and audience interaction are no longer separate processes but components of a unified structure that determines how content is produced, circulated, and consumed. I'll see you in the next one.